Hi there, this is Chris from MoneyHub, and this video looks at questions to ask during a web design quote. So there's many questions that you probably have, and we want to make sure that everything's complete. So we've put together just over 10 questions that comprehensively go through all the considerations you need to make. And this is based on a lot of research that we've done, plus our own experience. And now we want to share that. We've put a link to our pages below, which you can see in the video description. But of course, if you do have any questions, please leave a comment because we're highly responsive to those and we want our resources to be as comprehensive as possible. So that would really help us improve things if needed. So I'm just going to go through all of the questions and explain what they are and what the answers should be or what you're really looking for. The purpose of this really is to just give you the confidence to ask these questions, making sure that you understand the answers. And this should help you get the web design quotes that you want and make sure that everything's complete so you have full confidence to proceed. So first up here, just a preamble. We believe that a company with clear process and a fixed price and trusted reviews is probably the best way to proceed for any small business looking for a new website or a redesign. We think if they can explain what their process is to start with and not have you kind of guess it or anything like that, that's very helpful. Usually you'll get a feel for that in the first couple of emails. If they have a fixed price, that's even better. That's usually going to be driven by the number of pages or any special features. It kind of like is a menu. So it becomes very transparent to you. And then subsequent to that, if they have a history of trusted reviews, that is super useful because then you can see what clients they have, who they've worked with, what they've done, look at their portfolio, but at the same time, look at those online reviews because it's critical to understand that if someone's got, say, 50 reviews and they're all very positive, that's going to probably be a lot sort of more comforting than someone who's got 2 reviews and, you don't really know much out. Let's go through the first question now. So that is, what does the website design package include? And when will additional costs be charged? So we've put this up number 1 because we know that lots of web developers will give you packages and they'll give you some sort of pricing around that, but you really want to understand what is actually included and what is going to be the add-on cost, because some of these add-on costs can be significant and it can make the package seem quite cheap in comparison to what you'll have to pay for actual essential features that you need. So first of all, who's going to write the content? That's all of your pages. Who's going to do that? Is that going to be the web design team? Is that included in the package? Or is it going to be yourself? Or is it going to be a separate cost? So these are the sort of things that can certainly add up because web designers don't tend to be content writers. And so you will see that usually as a plus service, i.e. it'll be priced a number of words. You'll provide information usually in a question list, but if they're going to prepare it, then it's going to get quite expensive. So just understand that that's probably going to be an extra cost there. Now, what sort of features or functionalities are you looking for? Is there certain things that you need integrated? Things like booking systems, things like certain videos or anything like that. And you just need to understand that they may have a sort of additional costs as well. So read the packages very carefully. And then if you are to correspond, say, a website that you like the look of, and then sort of compare it to what's going to be provided in the package, you can ask the web designer, if I wanted a website like this, would this be included in your package? What package would be most appropriate? And what would be some of the add-on features that wouldn't be included within the package that I'd have to pay separately for? So you will usually be quoted the go live price. And that's going to cover everything, all the basics to get your website online or redesigned. But, there are going to be those additional things. Things like logo design, that's not usually standard as part of a web design service. And then additional pages beyond a certain limit. So you could pay, for example, a 5-page package or a 7-page package, something like that. But do be aware that if things do go over a certain sort of point, then there will usually be additional charges. And also you've got the change of mind revisions. So web developers will be very accommodating with standard edits. Sometimes you don't like the colors. Sometimes you don't want this here or that there. So you'll, obviously put your edits through for that during the build stage. But at the same time, it's really important that if you do change your mind and sort of go back on what you originally laid out in terms of the design or anything like that, then there may be fees applied for redoing that work to get it to where you now want it to be. So that's very critical to be aware of. How long does the web design take? And basically, how involved would I need to be? This is really important because lots of people have no idea. It's not the standard thing for a business owner in Australia to be doing websites more than, say, once every 3 to 5 years. That's what our research tells us. That's our experience within the industry. So if you're looking to get this done, it's going to usually take around 10 to 20 business days for a simple website. And the reason is because it's going to depend on the web. It's going to depend on the web developer to push things forward, start designing, start laying out. But at the same time, it's also going to be driven by the business owner or the people at the business who have to sign off on things, who have to review, who have to look at the information that's been presented and the design, the functionality, make sure that they're happy. And those two things, plus putting in edits, suggesting things, that take some time. So there can be some delays there. But 10 to 20 business days, it does seem standard for a simple website. But websites like e-commerce are going to take a lot longer than that because there's a lot of products to be putting together, a lot of descriptions and things, and also editing to make it sure that it works properly. So just be aware that 10 to 20 is a rough ballpark. It's a starting point, but the more things you need and like that, it's going to take longer. So what's the process for revisions and updates? So this is really important that should you have a change, which is pretty normal after the draft is sent, there will be things that you need to, want changed, want revised. Some minor change of mind is pretty normal if you think, oh, actually that should go here or we should put that there. How are they going to be charged for, basically, and how is that going to be included in your original quote? So significant revisions probably is going to be something out of scope because things should go pretty standard if the process is quite clear from the start. And that's why we think it's really important to be as descriptive up front about what you want, show website examples, just so that the web developer has a full idea of what you want. It's no point just sort of describing things in a word text rather than showing them real websites that have real users and saying, well, this is what I would like, this is what I'm sort of interested in for my website design. That's going to help a lot. That's going to minimize this process of revisions and updates. And the problem is if you start to suggest new things during the website build, then it's going to go out of scope because the web developer, they only have so much time. And the problem is if you start to say, oh, I actually want this, or I didn't think about this, but now I want this, it's going to add on to their time. And of course, they have to recover the costs for spending on it. So if you're not sure what you want, then, if you're not sure what you want up front, then look for someone either who, was going to provide lots of revision rounds. And so you can kind of build it as you go. But at the same time, do look for websites that you like the look of and, narrow those down. Take a list of 10, narrow it down to 3. It's going to help the web developer a lot just to be aware exactly what they can get and where they can go with what you want. Now, what are the ongoing costs? And these are looking at things like website hosting, maintenance, and support. So what's going to happen is when your website goes live, it's going to need hosting, but it's also going to need support and maintenance. So what you need to know up front is what these are going to cost, because it's no point signing up to a cheap website if you find out then that the hosting is very expensive per month and there's no alternative. They kind of close you in and force you to pay that. Now, that's not so normal, but it certainly has happened in the past, and there are web design agencies throughout Australia who do lock you in, and it becomes quite difficult to move, and you're kind of at the mercy of their pricing or their support. So just be aware that it's good to have the discussion up front. What will those what will the ongoing costs be? We'd expect for web hosting it to be around $10 to $15 to $20 per month, and that's something that you could prepay for the year and get a discount. Things like that just help to sort of manage your cash flows. You don't want to be getting large invoices every month for things to do with the website. It should be a set and forget type of expense, and nothing that's material to your overall sort of cash flow. What we also know is that some web designers offer maintenance and support packages. So this happens, this is useful if you need to make changes, and they usually charge per hour, or they may do packages of a certain number of hours per year. But at the same time, we really think that it's very useful to get self-management access, and that's something that means you can log in and do your own changes. And we also like web designers who have their own support service, who will help you with anything that you need to sort of self-manage, rather than just charging you all the time for every question and any kind of assistance. So just be aware and make sure that if you're looking for reviews, there is something sort of talking about the support, or do see if there are complaints about the support. That can be a red flag, just because you're going to go out there and you're going to have the support as well. So you need to know that it's going to be there for you. And then just moving on to some sort of softer questions here. Will the website be responsive and mobile friendly? That's really important. Most web designers now will be designing to be mobile friendly. It was kind of new around 10 years ago, around 2013, 14, 15. Since then, things have kind of rolled out quite extensively. And so now with so many searches on mobile, on phones, etc., then websites do need to be responsive. So it's probably not too much of a concern. But if you aren't sure, just ask the web designer exactly what they do for that, making sure it is mobile friendly. And if you want to test their portfolio websites just to see how they respond on your phone, that's often a very good idea as well, because you'll see exactly what it will look like. And I mean, obviously not yours, but other ones that they've done. So you want to make sure that it is actually mobile friendly and not just a shrunken version of it. And so that is really critical, because you need to be able to rank, and it does help for Google if you have a mobile friendly website. Now, how will you ensure that your website's always fast and always live? So this is really, really important, and it's looking at the Google Speed Insight tool. So what we suggest is that you run a website, usually a portfolio website of the web developer, through the Google Page Insights tool. If I click on that here, you can type in any website, and I'm just going to do ours for MoneyHub. So what we see here is some measures, which I previously talked about in other videos, but we can see that the best scores are always above 100. Where they sink a bit lower here is usually just down to a server question, which you'll probably see flagged there. But what really matters is that your scores for accessibility and best practices in SEO, they need to be as close to 100 as possible. And so what we suggest you do is go through the testimonial sites or the portfolio sites of your web developer or a potential web developer and run them through, see what kind of scores you're getting, because if they're building websites properly, they should be close to 100% as possible. The last thing you want is to be seeing 2s and 3s and 7s and 12s, because that just means that it's going to be problematic. This is a Google tool, and this is what Google wants people to be doing, to be using it to understand and show Google exactly how good their site is, how kind of user-friendly it is, and how well-designed it is in terms of the internal structure of it. And so it's critical to make sure that yours is going to be the greens, here, and not the reds or not the oranges. And so please do spend the time just running it through. I've linked down below the video, has this link for the speed test. So you can also run your own tests on it, as many websites as you want. There's absolutely no limit. You just have to wait a minute or so for it to properly load in full, and then you want to be looking at those scores. And this is what we've said here in our little commentary. So just be aware that you want someone who cares, and they will care by making sure that it's always as close to 100 as it possibly can be. Now, the second question to also ask is what web hosting company do you use? Because when you go live, you want to ensure that you have 100% uptime, and that means that your website is not offline. So sometimes there's been stories, especially with GoDaddy a few years ago, which took out quite a few websites when it went offline, their servers, and that certainly affected sort of thousands of Australian businesses. And so we think it's really critical just to understand exactly who your web hosting company is going to be, so that you can contact them and that they're reliable. You can check the reviews out for them as well. They may host it themselves, which is fine as long as they're a proper company and not a lone person who may close down or something like that and leave you exposed. So generally the risk is low overall, because people like to charge hosting to make, sort of a monthly or annual revenue. And so it's like a win-win for the client, and it's also a win-win for the hosting provider. But do make sure that it's the right type of company for you, and that you're comfortable with being able to contact them with with whatever support they offer. Now, how will you handle the project management and the communication during the design process? This is really, really important. So what is the process? Do they send emails when they've done something? Are there certain events which trigger the next step? So just ask. That's what you need to do. You just need to ask exactly how it is all tracked and progressed and how you're informed. That should be up front. So that should be told to you up front. If it isn't, that will need to be the question. What you want is someone or a web design company that's very clear, because where things go off the rails is usually when there's silence. So you've paid your deposit, you've sent things, and then you don't really hear much, or if you hear it, it's very sluggish. You ask a question, you get something back on email 5 days later. That's not great. So what you need to do is make sure that the process is clear, so you can also hold them to account should there be any delays or anything like that. Now, how do I update the website? And will I be provided with training on how to do this? And so this is really sort of critical, because people get their website, it gets handed over to them, but then they don't know exactly what to do. So there needs to be the information out there, and the resources from the web developer, or they could point you to a third-party site which they work with to give you that sort of education and experience. And what the best situation for you is that you can log in, you can make simple changes straight away, you can publish that. It goes live on your website, and that's very easy, because of course your business changes all the time. So there will be some things you need to do. And the worst situation is when you don't have editing access, and basically you're fully reliant on the web designer to make these on-demand edits. That's not fun. It's going to be expensive. You're going to be stressed. So make sure you dive into the detail there. As we've previously said on other videos, share the responsibility with someone else from your work, from your business, and so that you're both comfortable doing it. There's a backup, so that if someone's away, something needs to be done, then it can be done. And so what we believe is that the best web designers will use easy to update tools, and they'll provide the guidance there with the self-management, and they won't restrict you in any way. You can publish whenever you want. You can add pages, do everything like that, add videos, link in social media stuff. So you just need to ask exactly how you're going to manage it once they hand it over to you upon publication. So you won't get access to it usually until it's gone live, until you've paid the final balance that's owed to the web designer. But after that, certainly the website's 100% yours. So it becomes your responsibility to make sure that you can work with it. Now, can you provide a relevant portfolio of previous web design projects? This is really important, especially with whatever industry you're in. So do ask them. Say, okay, well, I'm in the building industry. I see you've got a few sites, but I haven't seen any on building. What have you done? And then they can send back a few construction sites or whatever they have done. It's up to you just to take that and see if it suits you. But at the same time, look at their other websites from their portfolio, because of course the same designs or similar designs can be used for you. And as what we always say is, if you really like a certain design from their portfolio or across the internet, then do share it with them. It really helps web designers to know exactly what you want. And if you can visualize it by sending them a URL, i.e. like a website address, that's going to be very, very useful to them. Now, do you offer additional services such as branding or marketing? And so that would be if you need logo designs, or if you need things like graphic designs externally, some business cards printed. So if this is something that you want, then it's best just to ask them. Some web designers will offer it, but they won't really promote it, or they won't really advertise the fact that they do. But certainly some will do it and some won't. So if that is of interest to you, then that's great. You can ask them. If it isn't, then that's fine. There's plenty of people who do it online, or whatever. And then what is your process for handling changes or modifications to the project scope? So this comes up when you have changed your mind, of course, and or there's been some development which you need to have factored in, and that means the website that you first agreed on is going to be different to what it's going to end up at, and there needs to be sort of separate sort of costs incurred because of that. It really is important. It's not that common, but it's really important to ask these detailed and specific questions when getting the quote, and just make sure you understand the scope of what's going to be provided, plus the timeline, plus the process for revisions. Because what happens, things do change, people get busy, people have new ideas. If it's a larger than just a small business web design, then people can come in and sort of want to see different things. Management has meetings that flows on to new custom requests. Just understand what's going to happen if we do get more views on it, more people talking to each other, and thus more work. You just want a general understanding of what that means in money terms, because it's going to incur costs, but you need to know exactly what kind of cost that's going to incur. So that's a list of must-know questions. If you do have any questions yourself, please, as I said, leave them below in the comment section, because that really helps us to improve our guides. And thanks very much for watching. We look forward to publishing more across this subject. Thanks.